Hey there, I'm Lucas Bolahood with the Bolahood Group at Coldwell Banker RMR Real Estate, and I'm joined by Alexandra Jobb at Legacy Lending. Alex, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Now, I wanted to kick this off with our introductions first because today we're kind of rebranding our regular meetings that we have here. We've been calling ourselves the Finance Friday show for the last number of I think we've been doing this for a couple of years.
I
But
know.
we feel like that's kind of gone a little stale with us because we don't always get together on Fridays. We don't always talk about financing. So I kind of wanted to revisit kind of what we called ourselves as we meet on a regular basis. And so everybody knows we've kind of rolled this out to call ourselves the Property Pulse. And the reason that is because, well, I'm a real estate professional. I work in a sales environment with our brokerage here at Coldwell Banker based out of Whitby. Alex, you work in the financing world as a mortgage broker. So putting our expertise together, we want to essentially, educate people on how to make really sound decisions when it comes to real estate, whether you're buying, selling, investing, whether you've got a refinance or you've got a mortgage coming up for renewal. You want to give you good in sound investment decisions when it comes to things like mortgages and that kind of thing. So we wanted to say, part of this too is that it's a pulse and that we're always kind of giving a read on the market and sort of what's happening currently, sort of what's the pulse today. So I think that's where we're going to focus on, or why we just decided anyways, to more or less rebrand ourselves as the Property Pulse. So we're going to kick it off from there, Alex. And so, with that, as we take a pulse on 2024, welcome back.
New
As we turn
year.
to the calendar here, how was your holidays over Christmas there? It has been a little while now, maybe a month since we spoke.
I know from our last recording. Looking back over holidays, I don't know. I have to say, like the lead up to Christmas or Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, super fun. We had a great time, like the magic's there. And then we fell into getting sick. So we were just like taking care of each other. I felt like it was what is it when you're locked down? Like we were in isolation. Like it felt like we were in isolation because
Haven't
we
been
can't
like
get
that in a while, eh?
I know when it was like, that daunting feeling of like we can't be socializing with friends and family. So it was kind of a long one. I hope that next year it can get away during that time. That sounds like a better idea. And seeing everyone traveling and on trips, I think like I need to get ahead of the game here and plan that for next year's holiday season. That's my goal.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like there was definitely something going around. My family got a little bit sick too, and I definitely heard amongst other clients and friends that there's some different bugs going around, whether it was sort of flu-like or
Yeah.
whatnot. It was certainly was making its rounds. But that kind of talking about getting away to some warmer weather. December was kind of a weird month. Like it was a non-traditional
Yeah.
warm green Christmas and all that kind of that we
Mild rain.
accustomed to. And then what do we get here in January? We've been dealing with some, freezing rain and slush and
I
whatnot. So
know.
it's been kind of weird, but you know, talking temperatures, the real estate market really cooled off in December, which actually like
Yes.
talking about a bit of a market update here, is pretty normal when you look at what a December would usually have going on in terms of activity levels. November, we had been in a pretty positive spot overall with the real estate market. Average sale price, I think, was at 930,000, but it dropped to 860 in December. And our inventory levels, our transaction levels, our new listing levels all dropped off, which you would expect over the holidays. And when we analyze that year over year, most of the variance was between up or down between 1% and 3%, depending on which side of par you were on there. Even our inventory levels, there really no change. We ended up
Right.
December at 1.8 months of inventory. And last year, 2022 in December, we were at 1.9 months of
It's
inventory.
just
So we're
typical.
pretty typical month. And I
Hmm.
think last we spoke as well. We were sort of bantering about, well, what's the forecast for 2024? And a
Hmm.
lot of what I've sort of been expecting was as a result of that seasonal slowdown was that we'd see a big rush of new listings to start January. And it looks like
Hmm.
we've experienced that, to this point in the month. We're recording here January 12th, so the second Friday in January. And we ended December or began January, however you like to look at it, with 862 listings actively on the market, which is where we landed on that 1.8 months of inventory. And so far in January, almost 2 weeks in, we've seen over 300 new listings hit the market, and that's brought our inventory level up to 1,163 in terms of active listings. which actually, when you do some of the math there, we're at 2.5 months of inventory or just about. So there's a big bounce back into what was approaching a balanced market over the last couple of months. Inventory has been steadily climbing towards 3 months of inventory. And that's where we see some more opportunities for buyers and a little bit more of a stable real estate market once we get into that balanced level that we've been trending towards over the last 6 months.
So, Luke, I wanted to ask you if you could break down that for us. So, when you look at the numbers and you say months of inventory, how is that derived? Like, can you give us the equation as to what
Yeah,
you're doing
well,
here?
it's a fairly simple one and it involves two numbers. So we look at the number of listings that are currently listed for sale on the market. We're going to look at in our case, in the residential world, we're looking at the freehold property and the condo style home as well. And we take the active listings of that total number and we divide it by the number of sales that occurred in the month previous. So in this case,
Okay.
there were 468 sales in December. So we take that number and it's essentially a gauge of what activity level, what demand is in the real estate market in that particular sector, because you can actually narrow this down by city and community, house type, however you want, depending on what you're dealing with. If you're on the buying and selling side to try and gauge, with the activity level and the market. So, like to take a step back from that for a moment, we've been in a seller's market for the majority of the last couple of years, between 1 and 3 months of inventory. And in that situation, a seller has a lot of the leverage because there's so much demand for homes, that they've got more leverage in that negotiation. And when you're in a buyer's market, it's when you've got 6 or more months of inventory available out there for buyers to consider. And that's when they have more leverage, where you've been in a much more challenging real estate market in terms of being able to complete the sale, because demand just isn't that high relative to what's available out there on the market. And a balanced market is usually in that 4 to 6 month range, where we've kind of been trending towards. Once you hit 3, it's a really it's a weaker seller's market, but you're moving into that world of a balanced market as you hit that 3 to 6, I should say, instead of 4 to
So,
6.
do you think we're going to stay in a seller's market, given the fact that they're anticipating that rates are going to trend downward this year?
Well, I think, and again, right now it's kind of a weak seller's market at 2.5 months of inventory.
Okay.
And we've been there's pockets that are, in a balance or even a buyer's market when you get over 6 months. It depends on where you are, right? So, just as an expectation, I would say, to answer your question, we're going to move probably back into a seller's market once interest rates drop and more
Yeah.
buyers come out of the woodwork and are looking to purchase. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to see prices skyrocket like they did, when interest rates were at 1 or 2%. We're still in that, that prime is at 5. So January 24th is the next rate announcement. If they elect to drop rates by a quarter point or something like that, consumers I expect, will come out of the woodwork and start looking to make those purchases again,
Yeah.
which will affect inventory levels, because as sales increase, that should cause a decline in inventory, which should push up prices. But because interest rates are where they are, I wouldn't expect them to go up at the rate that they did in
Right.
the last couple of years.
Well,
It might
I'll
be
just add to that,
a moderate increase.
like you said, the Bank of Canada is going to do their announcement on January 24th. So we'll stay tuned for that. I don't expect that they will be dropping interest rates.
Me neither.
But there has been talk of, mid 2024. So whether that's spring or summer, hopefully, sooner the better. However, we do see there are some price changes with fixed pricing. So if you have some clients out there that are in the market to buy, or they're coming up for renewal, better rates today than there were a few months ago or a few weeks ago. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and you know what, even though December was a quieter month and prices did drop almost 3%, from November to December, I do, because rates are trending down, I do see, as more buyers come out and more
Yeah.
transactions occur, that could start pushing prices back up again. But it's not going to be that, 10%, 15. I'm not going to throw a number on it necessarily, but we're not going to see a huge steep curve back up again just because rates have dropped. It's still going to have, it's still going to suppress pricing and put downward pressure on pricing. But I think we are more or less going to head into a more balanced market here in the
Hmm.
spring. But the moment the tap turns back on, banks start lending more money out to
Hmm.
consumers, that we could see
It
an increase for sure.
And it does change clients' ability, right? And borrowing power. So as rates come down, they are qualified for a bit more. And just with that, I mean, if you're in the game to search for a home, it's important to know, of course, what, if you're not a first time buyer, what you're going to get today, versus what, if you did an assessment or you're thinking last summer, if I might move, what your house was worth then, you want to revisit what it's worth today in today's market, and then circle back with your mortgage broker, myself, in order to see what your buying power is, right? So we can run those numbers and you can really understand the cost of moving forward into that next house.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had some great success stories with clients over the last couple of months here. While the market has been trending down, a couple of first-time buyers have pulled the
Yeah,
trigger, which has been fantastic to see people get into the market when there's so much of that fear out in the media that it can't be done. In fact,
it's so nice to
it
see.
absolutely can. So
Yeah,
that's definitely a positive. And I mean, and we went through this one experience recently with one of those buyers in that, they'd shopped and got pre-approved at one of the big banks. Not to say the big banks aren't, the big five aren't good options, but we had a conversation, say, well, actually, you know what? I think prices are trending down. You should have a conversation with Alex and Legacy Lending, right? And you guys were able to pull together a much more appealing rate that worked for these first-time buyers. Because what's more
absolutely.
important as a first-time buyer than cash flow, and getting them a better rate that helps them
Yeah,
save
it was a big
more
difference.
effectively. A
A big
huge difference.
difference.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was. So I mean, there's numerous success stories we can start to account for that have been happening over the last number of months, and it's all positive for people. So that dream of owning real estate is certainly a realistic one. It's not one that we need to cower in fear at, thinking it's not ever going to
that's right.
happen. It can. We just got to come up with a plan and work towards that nonetheless. So
Yes. And just to add to that too, whether that's your first home, second home, or an investment property, I mean, don't be afraid to dive in and analyze the numbers and see how we can make it work, whatever your dreams are.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, with that, Alex, I think we're going to look forward to that January 24th rate announcement to see what's going to happen at the Bank of Canada. Is there anything else you wanted to add to our chat today?
No, I think that's great. Thanks for having me on, and excited about our new name, the
Yeah,
policies, the
absolutely.
property pulse.
We will be back with the Property Pulse again soon. Thanks so much for everybody
Love
for
it.
watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, share with all of your friends, do all that good stuff because that's how we try and help more people. So thank you for that, Alex, again for your time, and we'll be with you again soon. Until then, bye for now.